All right, so last night at UFC 224, we saw jiu-jitsu champion Mackenzie Dern take on Amanda Bobby Cooper, who is a veteran of the Ultimate Fighter. The result of this contest was a very quick submission for Mackenzie Dern in round one, although this fight is being overshadowed by the very obvious issue of the weight and the size discrepancy, since Mackenzie Dern came in 7.4 pounds overweight. She weighed in at, I believe 123.4 pounds. And yeah, strawweight limit's 115 pounds. 116 with the 1 pound allowance for non-title fights. But she basically came in as a flyweight, and although she was fined 30% of her purse, it was just a very clear-cut violation, and a lot of people thought she did it intentionally to have a size advantage, especially in grappling positions. Having 7 pounds over someone is a pretty big deal. Too, it has to be considered that when you're talking about smaller women, 7 pounds is more weight, like as a percentage of your body, than for, let's say, 170-pound guys fighting, right? So it's even more significant, considering that these are small women to begin with. 123 pounds is essentially flyweight. So how is a fight happening when people are essentially in two different weight classes according to how they came in on the scales? It was definitely unclear as to what exactly happened with Mackenzie Dern and the weight issues. Out of her now 7 professional MMA fights, she has missed weight in 3 of these contests. So this is definitely a pattern, although she's never been this much overweight. She also pretty brazenly went over to the snack table after weighing in, didn't make any sort of effort to make the weight. I believe she would have had a 2-hour window had she decided to use it, and seemed content giving up 30% of her purse. So could it have been strategic? Definitely. The signs are definitely pointing to that being a real possibility. Now, she did address the situation after the fact when she was asked about it in her post-fight interview inside the octagon, and said that her camp change resulted essentially in the weight being an issue. And then also in the post-fight press conference, she said that her diet was probably also to blame. But there wasn't really still a clear answer from her as to why she missed the weight, which also points to, I think, a possibility of it being a strategic decision. A lot of people pointed out last night that of the 6 fighters who had missed weight so far this year, where the fight has gone on, all 6 of those fighters went on to win their respective bouts. There's the whole issue of people essentially breaking the rules, but still sort of benefiting from the rule breaking. Sure, they might have lost a portion of their purse, but ultimately they ended up with a win. So, like, what's more valuable? And does seeing this kind of thing happen where people miss weight and there's not really any real consequences in terms of the contest, does that potentially encourage people to violate the rules and to not make weight? I think that's definitely a valid concern, just kind of seeing the numbers and knowing that, yeah, there's not a real consequence, right? It's all discretionary, other than the 20% or 30% purse fine. Win is probably worth more than 20 or 30% of somebody's show money too, mind you. That leads, into the results of this contest. A lot of people didn't really have much to say about it because they didn't actually take it as a win, in the sense of, Mackenzie clearly had a huge size advantage over Amanda Bobby Cooper. So, like, the contest really wasn't a contest because it wasn't fair. And I don't disagree. Definitely, even just looking at the girls on the screen, it doesn't take much in terms of eyesight to see that clearly Mackenzie was a lot bigger than Amanda Bobby Cooper. I feel like she looked bigger than the bantamweights last night. Her not dropping the weight and not really doing the full weight cut gave her a huge size advantage. And it makes the contest unfair, and it puts all these variables into the mix that aren't supposed to be there, by the definition of weight classes. There are weight classes for a reason. to make these contests fair, and also to protect the fighters, because you should be fighting people who are the same size as you. I remember talking to somebody a couple weeks ago who does jiu-jitsu, who kind of laid it out as if people are skill for skill equals, it's the size that's going to then determine the outcome of the contest. So I think that really makes this a very hard contest to actually judge, because there are too many variables, which there aren't supposed to be. And weight classes are something that need to be respected and need to be stuck to. And missing weight it does make it an unfair fight. And the contest is not something that can just be clear cut and everything is equal, which is the point. And seeing as she had just such a size advantage over ABC, makes it really hard to sort of get any information from that. Now, I will say it was interesting to see Mackenzie Dern land a really big overhand right that then sort of led into the transition to get to the rear naked choke. A lot of people have been talking about Mackenzie Dern striking, just not being at a high enough level for the UFC and being very amateur. And so it was very interesting to see the win really come by way of her striking, although still definitely very rudimentary. And if you watch the actual fight, you can see that Dern is certainly not a very technical or savvy striker. She kind of threw the same big looping right hand over the top over and over, and it just happened to land. And not to say that she didn't have the skill set to land it or take anything away from her, but it was not a really technical punch or combination that rocked Amanda Bobby Cooper behind it. But, and this is where a lot of people are saying, oh, she has really great power. Can we really say that? Can we really say it? Because it's really easy to look strong and powerful when you're taking on smaller opponents, and that goes for anybody. So I think even that goes into looking at, was this a strategic decision? Because fighting, there's so many aspects of it. A lot of it is psychological and mental, and she's got to know that future opponents are going to be watching this and have their eyes on this match, especially because it was so high profile, and she is being hyped by the UFC, being on the main card of a pay-per-view in her second outing against an unranked opponent. With that knowledge, is she trying to strategically be bigger than the other girl that she's fighting so that she has this perceived power advantage, where she hits you and you go down? I don't know, but I think it's definitely possible, and especially just looking at how the contest ended up going, I think that that's a real possibility. Because certainly now, that she's gone through two girls, I think next is probably somebody in the top 15, probably, number 15 or 14 or 13, like in the low top 15, but I'm sure in the top 15 is next. And it does kind of remind me of Cynthia Calvillo a little bit, who was kind of on this rise last year, where she was this undefeated prospect and came into the UFC and, just smoked the girls that she fought. Although Mackenzie Dern didn't smoke Ashley Yoder in her first fight, but I digress. Cynthia Calvillo smoked the girl she faced, and then eventually she got high enough up the ladder that she faced opposition when she fought Carla Esparza last December, I believe, on UFC 219, and then suffered her first defeat. I think Mackenzie Dern's probably on a similar path where she is going to be pushed by the UFC, and is probably looking at facing somebody a lot more dangerous this time around. And I think too, what has to be considered in this fight is that Amanda Bobby Cooper is a great fighter. She's fantastic, especially as a boxer, as a striker. She's somebody who knows what she's doing, but she's still not cream of the crop. She's not even really near the highest level of talent that the UFC strawweight division has to offer. There's so many killers in that division, and she's not quite up there. So she is unranked, so I think it's also hard to judge Mackenzie Dern against her. I don't think that's the best litmus test of like how good is Mackenzie Dern and how can she hang in there with these girls who are at the top level. With the weight issues, you know, I don't think she should be fighting at strawweight. And even just looking at the size of her, it's not clear even that she's going to be able to make 115 consistently. Again, 3 of her 7 fights have been at a missed weight. She hasn't made 115 in almost half of her contests. So obviously that's a huge issue and probably an indicator that you're in the wrong weight class. You know, why is she fighting at strawweight? Is it for a size advantage? I think that one could probably say that. In terms of where to go from here, I think that I'm almost looking at this as a no contest situation, in the sense of like there was a huge disadvantage going into the contest and it wasn't really fair, and so it's really hard to like decipher information or get value from it. I'm almost surprised that the contest even went on. A lot of people are saying, you know, why did Dana White even allow this fight to continue, or the commission? And you know, I don't think that question is out of bounds, especially considering how close to the flyweight limits that Mackenzie Dern got. I do think there's some serious question in terms of if this bout should have even been sanctioned. So those are my thoughts on Dern versus Cooper. I would love to hear what you all think. Definitely make sure to subscribe to the channel for more content and more Female Fight Fans stuff. Definitely check out our website, femalefightfans.com, linked below, and follow us on social media, all at Female Fight Fans, also linked below. Thanks so much for watching, and I will see you soon.